Alright, so we're back. Took me multiple weeks to get back here, and it's hot as shit today. It's like 90 something degrees, but we are finally back for 9W. So in the last episode we sort of paused here at this light. I went left, I had to get back. I think we were losing sunlight, but today we got plenty of sunlight. It's only like 10 a.m 11 a.m, and we're gonna hit up the bottom part of 9W, which is one of my favorite roads, at least in Jersey here. And it's also sort of the direct passage to Bear Mountain and Harriman State Park, which I also like to ride. And I've actually ridden the past few weekends. I just didn't bring the camera. It's one of those days where I didn't want to bring a backpack in case the camera like died on me. I don't love have it sitting on the helmet the whole time, just because I'm afraid of losing it. I have a cheap sort of Amazon GoPro mount. I'm using the stock GoPro adhesive patch, which I think helps, but it's still just kind of chintzy plastic holding the rest of it together. So if it's going to be on the helmet, I at least want to be recording, just in case something happens. At least it was semi worth it. So today, a couple different topics. Number one would be we're riding on 9W, which I've been promising for weeks. So just enjoy the scenery here. This is like, it's nice because it's open here and there's not a lot of traffic, but it's still like office parks. It's not that beautiful. But as we go further north, it'll get nicer and nicer. And the second thing is going to be the C8 Corvette, which they just released on Thursday, at least released visually and some specifications. And I just want to talk about my sort of impression of it, what I'm hearing about impressions of it, and just some of the features for people who maybe missed that event. I stayed up for it. It was in California, in like the world's largest wood military aircraft hangar. I don't think it's still in service. I think it's like a museum now, or they just use it for these events. But it was in California, so it was late. It didn't sort of get unveiled until like 11:30 on Thursday night, but I stayed up the whole night. I think I was up till like 1 a.m. just because I was so pumped after they released it. So if you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, basically Corvette is currently on the 8th generation. They've just released the 8th generation, so they call them C and then a number, obviously 1 through 8. So the current generation that you can go out and buy right now on the lot is the C7. You've probably seen it a million times, at least if you're in the US. People love them. They're super affordable for what they are. They're really, really fast cars with the big V8s in them. And they're just affordable. You can modify them. Parts are relatively cheap. And if you look at like the Nürburgring time, so that's a track in Germany where they sort of benchmark supercars against one another, and it has a combination of like long straights, tight hairpin turns, uneven road surfaces, so it's not like a pristine track. It's a pretty good representation of like how your car is going to perform on the road. And the Corvette is always somewhere near the top 10, right? I mean, it's not the stock Corvette, so there's different models. There's the Stingray, which is the stock, like, base level one. And then there's the Z06, which has a little bit larger engine. We could talk about that a little bit later. And then the ZR1 is at the top of the line. There's also a Grand Sport in there, which is just like a little notch above the Stingray, but below the Z06. So there's a bunch of different models, but basically the generations are C and then a number. So the current generation, as I said, is C7. That is going to be the last, as far as we know, front engine car. So GM has sort of known this for a while. I think fans of the Corvette have known this for a while, that the front engine platform is pretty maxed out. They're already like throwing superchargers with crazy amounts of boost in the ZR1s. But there's only so much traction you can get from having the engine up front and only two-wheel drive in the back. So they could technically make like an all-wheel drive front engine Corvette, but I don't think many people would really be interested in that. So they elected to change the sort of geometry of the car to a mid-engine. So there's two other engine sort of placements you can do. There's front, there's mid, and there's rear. So the basic difference between mid and rear, obviously front is going to be any car you've ever driven, right? Mid is just a little bit positioned forward. I believe the definition is that the engine is just technically in front of the rear axle. whereas rear engine, it kind of sits on top of the rear axle. I could be wrong there, but basically it's just a small difference between mid and rear engine. But the idea is that you really do want, for perfect handling and weight balancing and a 50-50 or close to 50-50 weight distribution front to back, you want that mid-engine platform. So Corvette has, you know, sort of, or GM and the Corvette team have understood that they've maxed out the front engine platform, so they've just unveiled on Thursday their mid-engine platform, which is huge. There have been some prototypes to do this in Corvettes in the past. I think like the Serve 3 or even Serve 1, 2, and 3, I think were all sort of mid-engine platforms. Those were just prototype names. And you know, I think at first when they unveiled this, some people were upset. Some like Corvette purists were like, nah, this is like against, you know, what Corvettes have been for years, since the 60s. But I think, having said that, after they unveiled this car, I haven't heard a whole lot of people complaining about what it looks like or the fact that it's mid-engine, because it's a part of progression, right? Like, were people upset when they put fuel injection in Corvettes? No, because it made them way better and more reliable and faster, and they're, you know, you got to innovate. So I think they maxed out the old platform. If you still want an old one, you can get them, and we'll talk about that a little later too. You can still get C7s. They're discounting them now because they want to make room for the C8. And I guess I'll just cover this now because I'll forget. Basically, this is what I'm hearing, if a dealership sells a C7 now, they get in sort of a spot or an order or an allocation, if you want to call it, for a C8. So the more C7s they sell, the more C8s they're going to be able to bring in, either on pre-order or on the lot. So dealers are really sort of looking to offload those C7s. So if you like the front engine platform, or maybe you just don't have it in the budget to go for the brand new C8, check out your local dealers, see if they got some discounts. Like, don't be afraid to be aggressive on pricing with them and say, like, listen, everyone's going to want the C8 once it's out. Let me take this one off your hands. Let's keep it simple. So be aware of that. But let's talk a little bit more about the C8. So I've been super excited about the C8 for a long time. I'm a big, like, muscle car fan, sports car fan. I love McLarens, I love Mustangs. I'm traditionally a Ford guy, but I've always respected what the Corvettes have been able to do. So when I heard that Corvette was going to switch to this mid-engine, I had some concerns, but I was also very excited to see what they could do. So my main concern was the current C7 Corvette starts at around $54,000, and then the ZR1, which is the top of the line model, I think starts at 123 grand. So there's a lot of different options and a lot of, like, spread in there. But I think that's a good thing because it appeals to a wide range of customers. Not everyone has six figures to drop on a car. You know, very few people in the grand scheme of the US population actually make six figures a year. So having the cash to drop 123 on a car, or finance it even, is a big thing to ask. But that's the great part about American cars, right? We make them or assemble them here, so they're cheaper to us as Americans as compared to, like, London or Europe in general. I know I singled out the city of London, but Europe or Asia, basically it costs them more to get these cars. So that's always been the Corvette's sort of the working man supercar. You can get into one for 54 if you buy one used. You can get into one for 40. That's expensive, but it's not impossible. It's not unreasonable. So that was the exciting part of the C7. I was worried about the C8. I think originally, I think they started talking about this like 2 years ago, maybe at least a year ago, but I think 2 years. And I was worried that the mid-engine was going to only be on the ZR1 platform and going to be like 150K, which is really where you're at with, like, Porsche 911s. They get really expensive really fast. They're like six figures plus. Their mid-engine, if not rear-engine, they might be rear-engine. I think the Cayman's mid-engine, but it's semantics. But you have to spend a lot of money to get into those. They're great cars. I would love a Porsche, right? They sound incredible. When you put an exhaust on them, they sound like little F1 cars. So I was worried about the C8 being too expensive and only being in that maybe ZR1 $150,000 range, and then maybe over time the trickle-down effect, having them phase out front-engine Corvettes over time. After the release on Thursday, that is not the case. And I think people knew that over the past few months, but just telling you sort of my expectations of the car. The Corvette that they unveiled is just the Stingray, It is the entry-level Corvette. It's going to be mid-engine. It looks amazing. Look up photos. I'll probably paste in a couple photos of it in the video as I voice over this, but it looks incredible. It looks like a McLaren. The hood has these cutaways in it that look like a Lamborghini. It looks like the Huracan a little bit. There's like these V-shaped cutaways in the hood. Looks fantastic. It's got like these LED running lights as we'd expect in a car that's coming out in 2020. The interior looks fantastic. It has a driver-centric dashboard. I'll paste a picture if you don't know what I'm talking about. That's something that they brought over from the C7, but I think a lot of car enthusiasts will recognize that that's really, as far as my knowledge goes, that's from the 94, maybe 96. I don't know if they made one in 96, but the 1990s Toyota Supra had that driver-centric dash where it's just sort of tilted towards the driver, just making you feel like a little bit more special. These aren't passenger cars, right? They don't even have second row, like the 2+2 seats like they do in Mustangs and Challengers and Camaros. It's just a two-seater, so 90% of the time it's just going to be one person, the owner, driving it. So it's nice that they just sort of made the dash a little bit more like you focus. Like if you're spending all this money on the car, you want to feel special when you're driving it. So obviously the engine and the speed are gonna do that, but I've always just been a huge fan of that driver-centric focus, so I'm glad that the C7 sort of copied that from the Supra. Let me know if there's another car that you guys know about that has a driver-centric dash that maybe predates the Supra, but that's just where I first learned about it and fell in love with it, and I was so happy when they did that with the C7, and I mean the C7, the front engine one, and also the Targa top roof, which is really just where the center of the roof, instead of a sunroof, it just pops out and you put it in the trunk. And then you have like a quasi-convertible that I think looks better because when you put the Targa top on, it's just the standard hardtop. It looks the exact same as a non-Targa would look. And I like the function of convertibles, but I think they look like crap when you have a soft top on them. Even in like Lamborghinis where it's just like that tiny Targa cloth top, I don't think it looks good. I'm a big fan of the Targa tops. Very few cars do it. Porsche does it in the 911, but it's a specific model that you have to get for that. Corvette does it with the C7. Supra did it in the 90s or Toyota did it with the Supra in the 90s. And I was interested to see if they were going to do this on the mid-engine, because mid-engine cars don't have trunks typically, or ever. I don't really know of any that has a rear trunk. So you have a front trunk, which is really just a luggage compartment. It doesn't give you a lot of storage. If you're into golf, which I am, you have to put your clubs in the passenger seat. You'll see this all the time, even in like current generation Corvettes. Even though it has like a small back trunk, it's tiny. It's really just for that Targa roof and maybe a duffel bag. So I really was excited to see that they unveiled the C8 with the Targa top. But I was also concerned because where does that roof go? Does it have to be a permanent convertible? Some Lamborghinis and Ferraris, the roof will come off, but you have to leave it in your garage and pray it doesn't rain that day. And if it does rain, it's raining on your $200,000 plus exotic supercar. So that sucks. I think that's an oversight from their standpoint. I think there's some soft tops that maybe fold up, but I've seen videos of people like trying to put those on and off, and it just looks like a pain in the ass. Targa top is literally a couple levers. It unlocks, you lift it, one person can do it, and you throw it right in the trunk on the C7. The C8, they also unveiled, I had a feeling they were going to do this. The second I saw that they had a Targa, I was like, they got to put a rear trunk in there somehow, even if it's just for the roof to slide in or sit on top of the engine or something. Like, they've got to do something, right? And literally their next statement was, there's a trunk in the back and a trunk in the front, and I was so happy. And not only does it fit the roof, which I would have been happy with, right? As long as they fit the roof, that's fine. It also fits, they're claiming 2 bags of golf clubs. If you're into golf, there's what's called like walking bags and then cart bags. I think it might be able to fit 2 carry bags, which are just smaller. If you take out the drivers in the woods and just lay them on top, I think you probably could fit 2 bags. The pictures that they're showing on the website is just 1 cart bag, but even still, that's fine, right? If I need to in a pinch, I could throw a bag in the passenger seat. But if it's just me, I could just put it in the back, or I can choose, right? I could take the Targa off and then put the golf bag in the passenger seat if it's just me, if I want to ride in a convertible and then go golfing. That's possible. So it gives you options, right? This specific model of C8 looks like a great grand touring car, as the old Corvettes were, giving you just a little bit of room for luggage. They're not like totally impractical, but I think they really addressed, like, this is a mid-engine supercar. This is the entry level, but it's going to be fast as hell. But it's also a touring car that you should be able to take cross country and enjoy, and not have to like make a bunch of compromises when it comes to like packing a bag. Like, can I only bring a backpack because it has to sit on the passenger seat, right? Can I not take the Targa off because there's nowhere to put it? I think they did a great job of addressing all these concerns. I think they had big shoes to fill with changing the Corvette to mid-engine. There's a lot of people who were concerned, so I think they knew that they had to come with their A game and address any issues that might arise from a mid-engine car, so that they didn't alienate any of their old customers who could easily, it's not a direct substitute, but they go to a Mustang GT350, Shelby GT350, or the new GT500, both of which look sick and sound amazing, right? If you completely alienate and you don't address these issues of a mid-engine car, people just say, yeah, maybe I'll switch to Ford. I'll buy one of their cars. Maybe you never owned one and you want to try it out. So I think they did a great job of catering to old Corvette lovers, front-engine Corvette lovers, and also people who like McLarens, people who like Lamborghinis and Porsches. I just think they did an awesome job. And again, I'm a Ford guy. I had a Mustang in a previous life, and I love that car. I thought it was so much more spacious than the Camaro, right? Because that's a sort of direct competitor, if we're being fair. The visibility in the Camaro is not good. I felt like a lot of the design changes they made over the generations of the Camaro have made it look cheaper. Like, those taillights keep getting worse and worse. I don't know what they're doing. The best taillights, in my opinion, were those original 4 individual taillights that were clean. And they just keep getting like more and more plasticky over the years. I like what they're doing with the front end, but yeah, it's the taillights. I don't know. So I'm not a huge GM guy. I have always liked Corvettes. I'll give them that. Even Tahoes I like, but I'll never give you like 50, 60 grand for a Tahoe. It's just not, I'm never gonna spend that much on a car that doesn't have over like 400 horsepower or something. I don't know. I'm more of a supercar guy, muscle car. But anyway, I'm off topic. So basically, you know, I'm not a GM fanboy. I'll be the first one to call out GM on like stupid stuff that they do, but this was just like, they literally knocked it out of the park, right? They addressed every concerns of a mid-engine car. They're taking what is a great platform and what holds like, you know, top 10 Nürburgring spots, if not, it's like top 15 in the ZR1. So like, they know how to make race cars, right? We know that. But this is just going to be next level mid-engine. And I forgot to touch on this because I got excited about all the features. This Stingray, the C8 mid-engine Corvette, is going to start, they haven't they haven't unveiled exact pricing, but it's going to be under 60K, which is incredible. There's no other mid-engine car you can get for anywhere close to that. Even a used Porsche, you're going to probably spend around that, and it's probably going to be a Cayman, and that's a 4-cylinder mid-engine car that's tiny. I'm 6'2". I don't think I'd enjoy, I mean, I'm not going to say I don't fit in a Cayman, but I wouldn't enjoy driving a Cayman because it's too small, right? It's a great car for what it is. It's like a canyon carver. It's tiny. It's got a short wheelbase. It's super nimble. But this C8 Corvette is so much more car for what's going to be starting under $60,000. That's incredible. I think that's like a hugely motivating or inspiring part of this auto industry. Things are getting so expensive, right? Like BMW 3 Series used to start at like 32K, and now they're like close to 40K to start, right? Everything's just so inflated. I don't think people are making that much more money to where they can afford these cars. They're getting more creative with like financing options. GM specifically will finance like a Tahoe over 80 months now. I don't recommend doing that because from a finance perspective, you're going to be upside down on that entire financing term. You're never going to get to where like the principal, unless you're in like that last year, to where the principal of the vehicle is worth more than what you owe. But that's besides the point. I mean, do what you got to do. Some people don't have like the flexibility of paying it off in 60 months or leasing, so I get it. But cars are getting more and more expensive, and that was my main fear with this Corvette. I thought it was going to be $150,000 because GM would have just said, you know, screw it, this is a mid-engine supercar. And to be fair, based on the specifications, 495 horsepower, 475 pound-feet of torque, mid-engine, it looks exotic. They could charge 150 grand for this, and they'd probably sell a ton of them. Like, it looks like a McLaren, which costs 100 plus. It looks like a Lamborghini a little bit. You know, it has its own flair, and I'm sure the components of the car are going to be a little bit cheaper, but for 60k, less than 60k, I don't think too many people are going to balk at that. Like, yeah, you got to save somewhere. You can't put carbon fiber everything on it. I think the Z06 and the ZR1 will address that, and they'll get expensive, but hey, that's a part of making cars, right? You got to cater to all your markets, right? People who don't make a ton of money and people who do. So I'm really excited about this car. I don't have the money right now to put a deposit on one. The deposits are 5 grand. The car is going to be around 60 grand. I mean, it's going to be a little bit more than that, right? Because the first ones they're going to make are probably... that's a dead raccoon. I didn't hit it, though. I didn't make it dead a second time. They're going to ship probably some Z51 packages with the upgraded suspensions and styling cues. I don't have a problem with that. Apparently, though, they're just letting you pre-order and build it, and then they're just going to, you know, make it for you and ship it. And I've heard, so a little channel shout out. I don't know if you guys follow Street Speed 717. Sorry if I'm messing up those numbers there, but he's a YouTuber. He has Corvettes. He's had McLarens. He doesn't ride motorcycles that I know of, but he's like a car guy. So like I love cars just as much as I love bikes. I watch his channel. He has a friend who's a manager at a Chevrolet dealership in Pennsylvania, and he did a video, I'll try and link it in the description if I remember, of them going over sort of the back-end GM protocols on these pre-orders and what's going to happen. So apparently if you like pre-order it now and you put your 5k down, it sends that 5k to a local dealer who will sort of like facilitate the transaction. I don't think they're actually like placing these orders yet. I think they're going to start doing that soon, allegedly within the next couple months, maybe less. I don't know. They weren't able to say, just from like a proprietary information standpoint. But you put down the 5k, that puts you in the list to get one. You customize it. You can like it doesn't have the full pricing online, so I think once there's pricing on the on like the Corvette generator, or you know, like mock build your own Corvette, once the pricing is there, I think that's when the actual pre-orders are going to go through, because you need to know what you're paying for when you're adding these packages to the car. Then they'll put the orders through, they'll build them, and they're saying on this channel, I don't know, like I don't work for GM, but they're saying early like January, February 2020, you could be taking delivery of your Corvette, depending on where you are on the list and all that good stuff. But I think that's great. I wouldn't want to pick one up now. Well, I would, but you know, we're getting towards the end of the nice season in the Northeast, so getting it like early in the winter, as long as you have a garage to put it in, you're gonna get a full season out of it next year. I think this is a good opportunity. It gives people a little bit of time to save some money, to put like 5-10k aside to like throw at this car and get the monthly payment to something reasonable, because a $60,000 car is still, like, when you finance it out, it's like $800 to $1,000 a month. That's like most people's rent payment or mortgage payment. So yeah, it's definitely not like everyone's car, but it's a really affordable mid-engine supercar. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, but that's basically how that pre-order system works, to my understanding, right? Watch his video, I'll link it in the description down below. We gotta make sure no one's killing me. That's not where you're supposed to go through those cones, people, but I'll give it to you. It's kind of a clusterfuck over here. I'm excited about the car. Like I said, I don't have the money to pre-order. Maybe I'll try and scoop up one of the C7s. Like I said, they're discounting them heavily because it gives dealerships the opportunity to get, look at that gravel, goddamn, to get C8s on the lot, which they're going to make more money on, right? Because think about it. If you're pre-ordering a C8, you're not haggling on the price. You're pre-ordering it, and whatever it costs, you're just going to pay in finance, so you could be one of the first people to have one. And I think that's fine, right? If you need to be able to discount that price and get a little wiggle room so it's in your price range, I don't know how much they're going to do that for the first year, maybe, but you see what you can do. We'll see what happens. Maybe they get like an influx of deliveries and they can't move them. I don't think that's going to happen because of how awesome this car looks, but anyway. But that's the nice part about the pre-order system, right? The people who can afford full MSRP are going to pay it. So GM is going to make a little bit more money there, and the individual dealerships. So they're willing to discount these C7s a little bit to get those off the lot, to get the ones that are going to go for a higher margin, basically, because, you know, the GM makes it for X amount of money, they sell them to the dealers for X plus Y, and then they sell it to you for X plus Y plus Z. Sorry for that terrible alphabetical example, but I think you get the idea. So if they are selling it to you for full MSRP, the margins are going to be higher than they are on the C7, even if the price is the same. Or maybe not. The price will be a little bit more, but you get the idea. So they're trying to get rid of the C7s. See if you can get one of those. I would love to get one of those. Those things sound dope. They, you know, any other American muscle car that you could buy, I mean, it's more of a sports car, but any car in that segment, like Mustang, Camaro, Corvette, Challenger, even Charger, we'll throw that in there. I like Chargers. Those are all front engine. So the Corvette's just a little bit lighter, a little bit more powerful, definitely more modifiable. You can like really get some horsepower out of those bad boys if you do like a camshaft upgrade, exhaust, cold air intake. Certainly if you supercharge it or turbocharge it. I'm not a huge fan of forced induction. I'm like a naturally aspirated kind of guy, but I respect what people do. Actually, funny I should say that. When I'm at Nyack right now. Last time I was in Nyack, there was a guy with like maybe like a GTO or a Nova. I know those are like vastly different cars, but it came out of that shop over there, and it had like a whining supercharger in it, and it sounded amazing. So I don't think I'm like a hater on forced induction. I just like prefer a naturally aspirated engine. So let's see, I distracted myself, as I do on this channel a lot. Oh yeah, so yeah, anything else you can get at this time, like drive off the lot right now, is going to be a front engine American car. So there's nothing wrong with the C7s. I don't think they're going to become obsolete. It's just this C8 just really seems like something special that has a lot of horsepower. Actually, it's a fair amount of horsepower. It's not north of 500. It's still a lot, but it's not like they blew everyone away with that. But it's just going to be an incredibly well-balanced car. It has a beautiful interior. Like I said, driver-centric focus. It has an electronic dash. I'm interested to see if that is going to be an option like it is in the Mustang. The Mustang also has a wide electronic dash, but that's an option. As well as, I'm kind of going between Mustangs and Corvettes here, but the Mustang also has an option for the butterfly valves in the exhaust. So it basically has a quiet mode and a loud mode. I know Corvette has done that in the past. I think they were the ones to maybe even like patent it and invent it. I'm interested to see if the C8 stock has those butterfly valves, because that's big, because that saves you money from, if you really want to hear what that engine sounds like, or not, you know, if you want to hear what 80% of that engine sounds like, because it still is going to be road legal, emissions legal, and have catalytic converters, but it's going to sound a lot better with those butterfly valves than it is with just a stock exhaust. And then you'll have to pay for a new exhaust and swap that in and pay someone to put it in if you're not like mechanically savvy, or you don't have a car jack or a lift to use to install it. So I think that's important to ship these cars with butterfly valves, just so that you don't immediately have to go out and put in a new exhaust or pay for a new exhaust, because you want the car to sound good. That's why you're buying it. You're buying a supercar, muscle car, so you can hear all 8 cylinders all the time. I don't think anyone really wants a quiet muscle car or supercar or sports car. So I'm interested to see what they do with that. Is the electronic dash stock, and are the butterfly valve exhaust stock? I hope they are. I would very much like both of those. But as long as you give me that platform, right? If you just sold me for $60K, that platform of the mid-engine, the way that car looks, I'd be a pretty happy camper. I think it looks amazing. It's definitely going to handle amazing. And then the last thing I wanted to discuss would be the transmission. So a little bit of background on transmissions. Traditionally, Corvettes have had an automatic single clutch transmission and a manual, 6-speed, 7-speed manual, 7 or 6 being the overdrive. And people were concerned about this one because it was rumored that it was only going to have a DCT, dual clutch transmission. And when they unveiled it, it does only have the dual clutch. I'm not one of those people who's offended by that. I think that's one of those things with the times. Not a lot of other manufacturers are putting manual gearboxes in their cars. I think Porsche is one of the last ones at least to have a mid-engine or a rear-engine platform and offer a manual. If you want one, you can get it in the Camaro, the Mustang, I think the Challenger. But I think a lot of those ship with automatics anyway, because they're just like straight line dragsters. They're amazing for what they are. I like the way they look. They're also the most retro looking, so good on them for doing that. But people were, I think, a little bit upset. Who knows if these people who are upset would have ever bought one. Sometimes people just like to complain and act like, you know, a company did something wrong. But I think with the level of power this thing's going to put out and be able to handle, I think a dual clutch is fine. I think dual clutches are like a little bit, let you enjoy the car a little bit more. It's certainly less involved, right? You're interacting less with the vehicle directly. I mean, it's just like riding motorcycles, right? If you asked me if I wanted an automatic motorcycle, I'd say no. I like the fact that it's manual. But this car is just a little bit different, right? In a straight line, it's going to be way faster because the car can either shift for you or you just hit the paddle if it's in manual mode. I think Porsche did a great job of making dual clutches a little bit more sought after because their PDK transmission is so fast. It's literally like dropping a marble on the floor. I don't know why I chose marble, but it's kind of dense and small. It's just like you let go, it drops the gear or shifts up, but you can like hear it too. So I would love a Porsche with a PDK transmission. Like I said, I think they did a good job of making dual clutches not like taboo and not a bad thing. And I just think that a mid-engine sports car, Ferrari's been doing it, Lamborghini's been doing it. They just need a dual clutch transmission. It's just like I said, it's one of those innovations. I think we're just in that range where not a lot of cars are going to have manuals anymore, but it's going to be faster because of it. If you watch Street Speed's videos, he has a ZR1, C7 ZR1, and he raced a guy who had the identical car. It was just a manual, and maybe the guy, I'm not talking shit, but just maybe he wasn't like the fastest manual shifter, but the automatic just toasted him, just literally walked him like it was a modified car or a completely different car. Just completely walked this guy. So if you like speed, or if more speed is a good trade-off for no manual, like I think there's a good use case there. I don't think it's a huge deal. Like I said, if you really want a manual, you can get an older car, you can get one of those Mustangs or Camaros or current generation Corvettes. Like, it's not impossible. It's not like they're gone forever. But I haven't seen a lot of people complain about this either, right? Like, the overall opinions about the C8 have been pretty positive as far as I've seen. I haven't seen any like forums blowing up about like, oh, they ruined it, it's hideous, like it's got no power, what did they do? I think everyone's excited, and for the reason that this is a chance to give like regular people, not everyone, we got to be fair, but regular people a chance to buy a mid-engine supercar without breaking the bank or like stretching themselves to a point where they're no longer can pay other necessary bills. So I think that's really cool. That's basically my closing thought here. I think it's really cool what they did with the car. I think it looks amazing. I like the specs. I like that it has a dual clutch. Because the last generation, I just want to point this out, the last generation Corvette, I believe the C7, I could be wrong, but I'm almost 100% positive that it only has a single clutch automatic. It's still fast. It shifts fast, but there's nothing like a dual clutch which sort of pre-sets up the next gear and just disengages the current gear you're in for a lightning fast gear shift. I think that's cool. So I like that. Like I said, I like the looks. I like the fact that it has a trunk so I could take it golfing if I do get one of these cars down the road. It has a front trunk for luggage or backpacks if you're going on a trip and you could still bring someone along with you. It has the Targa top. This is literally the car. If you asked me to build a car, I would build this car. Like, I would have a rear trunk, mid-engine, Targa top, V8 with a dual clutch transmission, race seats on the inside, big infotainment system, Bose speakers, which are also an option. Trying to think what else it has. flat bottom steering wheel. It also has a flat top steering wheel to make more room to see the gauges. I don't know if I love that, but I'm sure the function outweighs the fashion of that. I think they knew what they were doing in making that wide dash more visible. What else? Yeah, this is the car I would build. I think it has all the features you would want in this type of car. I think it looks amazing. I love the fact that it costs 60 grand. I love the fact that it's finally been unveiled and that it actually looks good, because the spy shots with the camouflaged Corvette look like that back end could have been hideous. Like, it looked like a wedge, almost like the Celine S7 has that super wide back, except I love the Celine S7. I think that car is beautiful. But the spy shots almost made it look like it had a big rectangular back end. I guess I can make it right. I'm right here. But I don't think it does. I think the camouflage did it justice in making it not look exactly like what it actually looks like. I gotta get a sneeze. Might edit this out. Maybe it'll pass. All right, it passed. So yeah, I think it's beautiful. It looks good. There's a video circulating on like Instagram and YouTube right now of someone driving one of the prototypes, or I guess they're finished models. I think it's pre-production technically, the ones that are out right now. So, but there's someone just basically doing a takeoff. It's not a huge takeoff, but you get the idea of what it idles at and what it sounds like once you give it a little gas. It sounds mean. It sounds exactly what you would want it to sound like. And I'm sure once you put aftermarket headers and exhaust on there, and maybe you do a camshaft once your warranty runs out, or if you're rich, you just do it on day one, it's going to sound brutal. Absolutely brutal. And then on top of that, it's going to handle like a dream. So I'll leave that sort of at the end. I'll end there basically on my C8 discussion. I really like it. I'm excited about it. I'm going to do everything I can from now and then to save money to look at me, I'm getting so excited I'm revving the engine up. To save enough money to buy one. I don't think it'll happen like early 2020, but we'll see. You never know. Maybe I'll win the lottery. If I win the lottery, I'd pre-order one tomorrow. I'll put it that way. That's how excited I am about this car. Let me know what you guys think in the description. Do you like it? Do you hate Corvettes and like them now? Did you love Corvettes and hate them now? Yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite color is. I have always been a big fan of the yellow and black Corvettes, whether it be like black with yellow brake calipers or yellow with like a black hood, black roof, black rims. But I don't know, it's hard to tell in the rendering on the like build a Corvette generator. I don't know why I can't think of a better word for it. I know there's a better word for it. It looks like a highlighter yellow almost, and I'm not sure I like that. But we'll see. You're not going to be able to really tell until you see them in person, and you won't be able to do that until, like, you know, for a few more months or maybe early next year. So we'll stand by on that. I think the white looks really good. You can really see all the lines in the side panels, and I hate white cars. I would never get white cars. I always like black cars, dark red cars, and blue cars. Mainly navy blue, but blue in general. But I think the white Corvette looks pretty sweet, especially with the Z51 package and black rims. So we'll see. Let me know what your favorite color is though. And what else? What else would I want to know? Are you planning on getting one? I guess is a big one. And if you are planning on getting one and you have a YouTube channel, let me know and I will give you a follow.